Welcome to the Country Watch Political Intelligence Briefing Quick Hits, a weekly briefing of hot stories across the world in brief. I'm Denise Youngblood-Coleman, and I'm the Editor-in-Chief and Senior International Affairs Analyst at Country Watch. This week, Jordan is the featured country. On April 3rd, former Crown Prince Hamza of Jordan said that he had been placed under house arrest. Prince Hamza, the son of the late Hashemite King Hussein and Queen Noor, and half-brother of King Abdullah II, also accused the country's ruling system of corruption and incompetence. In a videotaped statement leaked to BBC News via his lawyer, Prince Hamza said that his phone and internet service had been cut off and that the country's military chief ordered him to remain at home, prohibiting him from going out and meeting with people. As well, Prince Hamza said that his security detail had been removed. The former crown prince condemned the ruling system, appointed a specific designation that did not explicitly impugn his half-brother, King Abdullah II. Prince Hamza suggested the actions against him were being taken in retaliation for his association with meetings in which the king had been criticized. But he denied being part of, and I quote, any conspiracy or nefarious organization or foreign-backed group. Those were the very charges that were levied against Prince Hamza publicly by Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi. The foreign minister said that Jordan's security forces had intercepted messages and calls indicating that a seditious plot involving foreign actors to destabilize the country was afoot. But he added that those plans had been nipped in the bud. In the background was the fact that 16 people were detained in connection to the seditious conspiracy plot. According to Safadi, King Abdullah authorized the arrest of Prince Hamza's associates, but preferred to handle the situation with his half-brother internally. Initially, Prince Hamza struck a very defiant tone, refusing to comply with the orders for him to remain at home and cut off communications. Meanwhile, his mother, Queen Noor, defended her son via Twitter, casting the accusations against him as wicked slander. But by April 5th, tensions had cooled and the crisis appeared resolved, at least for the moment. King Abdullah had appointed former Crown Prince Hassan bin Talal to act as an envoy in a meeting with Prince Hamza, which was attended by other members of the royal Hashemite family. At the end of the meeting, Prince Hamza had signed a letter pledging allegiance to his half-brother, King Abdullah II. Until this time, there had not been any sign of hostility or rivalry between King Abdullah II and his half-brother, Prince Hamza. Although the situation appears to have been calmed as of April 5th, the scenario has opened the door to questions about the need for political, economic, and democratic reforms. Located on the borders of Israel, the West Bank, Syria, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia, Jordan is of enormous strategic interest to the United States, which has troops located there. Thus, these developments in Jordan would be watched closely by the international community, and particularly by the United States and Western allies, for any sign of eroding political stability in Jordan. Moving on to developments elsewhere in the world, in Ethiopia, videotaped footage has emerged showing Ethiopian soldiers massacring Tigrayans. Going back to November of 2020, the government of Ethiopia commenced a military offensive into Tigray to pacify rebellious regional leaders after the Tigray People's Liberation Front rejected the authority of the central government of Ethiopia. The offensive operation targeted the entire city of Mekelle using heavy artillery, something that could be regarded as a war crime under international law. The situation in Tigray continued to flare in January of this year, when Ethiopian troops targeted and killed top officials of the Tigray People's Liberation Front during a military operation. But by late March of this year, the Ethiopian military's aggression towards the people of Tigray was ongoing and perhaps one could say amplified, with unverified footage emerging from Tigray Media House via CNN. The footage appeared to depict Ethiopian soldiers carrying out a mass killing of Tigrayans close to Mahabere Dago in central Tigray. According to Tigray Media House, the footage was taken by an Ethiopian whistleblower soldier and showed Ethiopian soldiers gathering a group of unarmed young men, shooting them at point-blank range, and then crudely tossing their bodies over a rocky ledge. The soldiers can be heard on the video urging each other not to waste bullets and instead use the least amount of bullets to kill the most Tigrayans. Indeed, the words 2 bullets are enough are articulated. The massacre close to Mahabara Dago was one of many believed to have occurred in the months since the Ethiopian government commenced its military operation against the Tigray People's Liberation Front. Indeed, Médecins Sans Frontières reported that some of its workers witnessed Ethiopian soldiers dragging men off public buses close to the Tigrayan capital of Mekelle and executing them. Moving on to Burma, also known as Myanmar, the military has continued its brutal and violent crackdown on protesters months after the coup d'etat that ousted the democratically elected government from power. In a shocking juxtaposition of military might used against its own people, the country's military showcased its heft during its annual Armed Forces Day parade in Yangon, even as its soldiers killed scores of protesters across the country, including children. The actual death count was nebulous, with numbers ranging from the dozens to 100 on this day alone. The shocking and abhorrent action by the military, known as the Tatmadaw, against the people of Burma, also known as Myanmar, sparked international condemnation and calls for the Tatmadaw to be prosecuted in an international court of law. The ruling military junta, however, was undeterred and unconcerned about international criticism. Instead, the state-run television agency showcased an announcement telling young people who have been at the heart and the forefront of the protest movement to view those killed during demonstrations as a warning about the risks of being shot to death. It was difficult not to interpret the announcement as a dire threat to protesters of the consequences of resisting the coup leadership. Next week, I'm going to cover some nuclear politics, and the spotlight will be North Korea's progress in becoming a nuclear power, as well as renewed efforts to return to the diplomatic table with Iran. There will be also election and government coverage for several countries, including Netherlands and Israel. For more information about these and other stories, please read my weekly political intelligence briefing and my coronavirus report, both of which are accessible from the front page of the Country Watch website at www.countrywatch.com. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. And yes, please do remember that now, more than ever, we live in an interconnected world.